In the farthest reaches of the Pacific, where the world falls away into a darkness so complete it seems older than time itself, there is a place where sound does not simply travel. It lingers, bends, and becomes something unearthly. Down in the hidden canyons of the Mariana, echoes drift like ancient spirits, woven into currents that have never touched the sun. These resonant chambers hum with mysteries that defy the limits of pressure, silence, and human understanding. And as we listen, truly listen, we begin to hear the impossible stories carried in those trembling waves. Stories of creatures unseen, movements unrecorded, secrets older than the ocean itself. This is where the deep speaks and waits for us to answer. If this journey pulls you in, remember to like the video, share it with someone who loves the unknown, and subscribe for more cinematic explorations. The ocean always begins with a lie. From the surface, it seems gentle, almost tender, its waves rolling in slow breaths as if nothing below them could ever harm or overwhelm. But the truth hides in the weight of water, in the endless layers of blue that fold into deeper blue, each one darker, heavier, more ancient than the last. As we drift away from the familiar shimmer of the coastline, the world begins to feel wider, emptier, as though the horizon has loosened its grip on everything we understand. The sky stretches thin, the air grows quiet, and the sea, calm as a sleeping giant, waits for us to descend. The first meters below the surface feel almost harmless. Sunlight dances in broken ribbons, weaving through currents that sway like forgotten lullabies. Silver fish flit between the beams, their scales catching the light in sudden sparks, like stars skipping through a shallow sky. Here, everything still belongs to the world we know. The sounds are soft. The water is warm. The colors still resemble life. But each kick of the fin takes us farther from the familiar and closer to a realm where even light must surrender its claim. We sink past the drifting veil of plankton, each tiny life glowing like dust caught in a cathedral beam. They turn the water into a swirling tapestry of quiet motion, a final celebration of color before the deep steals it away. Above us, the surface warps into a trembling blur. The last shape of the sun melts into the waves, thinning into a pale ghost, then fading entirely. And with that final whisper of sunlight, the descent truly begins. Pressure presses gently at first, like invisible hands resting on our shoulders. Then it tightens. Then it grows heavier. The weight of centuries seems to gather around us, closing in as we fall through the twilight zone, a region where the ocean forgets what color means. Shadows lengthen into vast shapes. The water cools until even the warmth in our breath feels borrowed. The silence becomes a living thing, thick and full, as if every sound we once knew has dissolved into the cold. And then, beneath that silence, we feel it, a tremor. Faint, distant, almost too soft to notice. It drifts through the water like a memory out of place, a low hum that does not belong to any current or creature we recognize. At first, it seems like a trick of the pressure, a phantom vibration imagined by the bones. But as we descend deeper, leaving the last touch of daylight behind, the tremor repeats. Slow, rhythmic, a distant echo pulsing from somewhere far below. The instruments confirm it. A subtle vibration, barely measurable, but steady enough to draw our attention. It is not the groan of shifting rock, not the song of a whale, not the churning of a distant storm. Its pattern is too deliberate, too even, too patient. It feels like something waiting, something ancient, something that has been humming in the dark long before our descent began. We push deeper, letting the ocean swallow the last remnants of warmth. The world around us grows thicker with shadow, turning the water into a cold cathedral of suspended night. Strange shapes drift at the edge of our vision, small lantern-bodied creatures that ignite the darkness with flashes of soft blue and pale green. Their light pulses gently, like beating hearts drifting freely in the void. For a moment, Their glow reveals the vast emptiness ahead, a vertical world without ceiling or floor. And again, the vibration returns, stronger this time, more defined. It slides along the canyon walls below us, rising from some unreachable chamber deep in the abyss. The sound feels less like noise and more like breath, a long exhale trapped in chambers of pressure and stone. It is impossible to tell how far away it is, or what shape could make such a sound in a place where sound should barely exist. Yet the ocean carries it upward, threading it through the cold like a whispered warning. A moment passes, then another, and without meaning to, we slow our descent. Something instinctive presses at the edges of our mind. A pause, a hesitation, the same ancient caution that once kept early explorers from stepping too close to the mouth of a cave whose depths they could not see. The deeper we go, the more the water feels charged, as if holding its breath with us. Below, the darkness thickens into something almost tangible. A vast, unseen space opens beneath our feet, wide enough to swallow mountains whole. And from within that abyss, the echo rises again, longer, deeper, resonating through the bones of the ocean itself. It is not just a sound, it is a call. And the deep has finally noticed we are here. The echo lingers long after its sound fades, as though the water itself is reluctant to let it go. It clings to the pressure around us, settling into the walls of the abyss like a forgotten breath trapped in stone. For a moment, we hover in that suspended stillness, listening not just with our ears, but with the entire body, skin, bones, heartbeat, each one tuned to the strange vibration trembling through the dark. And as the silence returns, it does not feel empty. It feels watchful. Below us, a slow drift of bioluminescent threads unfurls like falling embers from a fire long extinguished. Each tiny creature glows with its own quiet pulse, creating a soft rain of light that dissolves into the depths. Their descent reveals fractured silhouettes beneath us, faint outlines of towering formations rising from the abyssal floor. They look like the spires of a drowned city, each one stretching toward us with jagged, cathedral-like shapes. These are the first hints of the hidden canyons, the carved labyrinth where the deep keeps its secrets. As we sink toward them, the pressure mounts with a deliberate, crushing patience. It presses against the hull, against our breath, against the rhythm of our thoughts, reminding us that we are crossing a boundary no human body was ever meant to reach. The water grows colder until each inhale feels thin, sharpened by the weight of a world that has swallowed everything else for millions of years. Lights sweep across the canyon's entrance, carving thin pathways through the darkness. The beams dissolve almost immediately, swallowed by suspended particles drifting like ancient dust. For a moment, there is nothing but the steady hum of the descent engines and the soft cracking of expanding metal. Then the dark shifts. A movement? A shadow? Or simply the abyss reminding us that nothing down here is ever still. The instruments pick up the tremor again, faint, deliberate, growing more defined. It rolls upward in a slow, resonant wave that brushes against the canyon walls, causing fine sediments to swirl in ghostly spirals. The sound is different this time. Not a single tone, but several layered together, rising and falling in a pattern too steady to be random. It's as though the canyon itself is breathing, exhaling through chambers we cannot see. We move deeper. The canyon walls rise beside us like colossal sentinels, their surfaces etched with fissures that glow faintly under the submersible's lights. In these cracks, tiny organisms shimmer like veins of living gold, responding to our presence with soft glimmers of blue. They stretch in delicate webs across the stone, forming patterns that resemble constellations that may never have been seen by human eyes. A narrow passage opens before us, twisting like a ribbon of shadow between the towering walls. The water temperature drops another degree. The cabin lights flicker in the sudden cold. A thin mist of microbubbles drifts upward, carried by some unseen current that stirs only within this confined space. It feels as though we've entered the throat of some ancient entity, one that has been asleep for eons and is only now beginning to stir. Another vibration sweeps through the canyon, deeper, longer. This time it carries a faint metallic resonance, as though something massive is shifting far below. The sound blooms into the confined space, vibrating against the hull in a slow thrum that settles into our bones. Every instinct urges caution, but curiosity, that old relentless driving force, pulls us forward, deeper into the narrow abyss. We pass through the constriction, and the world opens into a vast internal chamber wider than any cathedral carved by human hands. The walls fall away into the darkness. Our lights touch nothing but drifting particles that glitter like suspended stars. The mud far below lies untouched, pristine, a smooth blanket of silt that has not been disturbed in centuries. There is a stillness here that feels sacred, as though this place belongs to time itself. We drift forward, careful not to stir the silt. Every movement feels magnified. Every sound feels wrong, too loud, too sudden for a chamber built to hold silence. And then, in the stillness, the vibration returns, this time accompanied by a faint secondary pulse, softer and higher, like a distant answer. The canyon is speaking, and for the first time, it feels unmistakably intentional. The instruments shake. A thin line on the display jumps sharply, then steadies. The pulse repeats, this time closer, threading through the chamber with a strange clarity that raises the hair on the back of the neck. It is not random, not geological, not the voice of any creature we know. It feels like something vast, hidden in the dark, is listening to us, listening to it. And every second we remain here, the echoes grow more familiar with our presence. The pulse fades slowly, dissolving into the stillness as though the canyon has withdrawn to consider us. For a long moment, we hover without movement, letting the silence settle again. Down here, in a place untouched by sunlight or memory, even the smallest vibration feels monumental. The darkness presses close, so complete it almost feels solid, a living presence wrapped around the submersible like a mantle of ancient night. And yet, somewhere inside that vast quiet, we sense something waiting. Not hostile, but aware. A gentle current drifts through the chamber, stirring the silt below in delicate spirals. The particles rise like pale ghosts, suspended in the beam of our lights before scattering into the black. It reveals the canyon floor more clearly, smooth, undisturbed, almost glass-like. It is the kind of surface shaped not by chaos, but by time, by the slow settling of the world's oldest dust. A place where nothing living has walked in ages. We push deeper into the chamber, light sweeping across the vast interior. The walls recede into shadow, towering so high we cannot see where stone meets the darkness above. The canyon seems to breathe around us, its impossible scale carved by forces we can barely comprehend. Deep fractures branch across its sides, some narrow like claw marks, others wide enough to swallow buildings. They run like veins through the stone, disappearing into depths the lights cannot reach. The temperature drops again, a sharp, sudden chill that fogs the edges of the glass. This cold does not feel natural. It arrives too quickly, too focused, as though funneled through some hidden pathway behind the walls. The instruments flicker, adjusting to the sudden shift. The hull responds with a soft groan, metal contracting under the assault of freezing water that feels as old as the earth. Then, outside the window, something glimmers. A faint streak of light drifts across the chamber, softly glowing with a pale, pearlescent shimmer. At first, it seems like just another bioluminescent organism caught in the current. But as the shape approaches, its details sharpen. A long, translucent ribbon of life, almost serpentine. Its body lined with delicate luminous filaments that pulse in rhythmic waves. It moves slowly, gracefully, undisturbed by our presence. The light from its body reflects against the walls, revealing jagged textures and hidden ridges that ripple downward like ancient carvings. Another creature follows, then another. Soon the chamber holds a small choir of drifting lights, their soft pulses rising and falling like a silent song. They cluster near the fractured seams in the stone, drawn to something deep within the canyon, something we cannot see, but can feel growing stronger with every passing second. The instruments begin to pick up faint harmonics again. Not the massive, resonant pulse from before, but smaller, more layered frequencies. They fluctuate in wavering patterns, too complex for simple echoes. Each harmonic feels like a thread, woven into a larger tapestry of sound we have yet to understand. As we watch the glowing creatures drift, their pulses seem to align, matching the subtle vibrations humming through the chamber. The canyon is guiding them, or they are guiding the canyon. A sudden tremor shivers along the wall to our left, faint, like a finger brushing lightly across stone. It runs in a slow ripple down the ridge, causing the glowing organisms to scatter. Their light flickers as they dart into shadow, leaving us alone with the rising hum. The sound builds slowly, gathering strength in the depths. It doesn't feel like something chasing us. It feels like something awakening. We edge closer to the far side of the chamber, where the walls curve inward into a dark recess. Our lights sweep across it, and for a moment, the darkness shudders. Not a movement of water, not a drifting creature. A shift within the stone itself. A deep fissure cuts through the recess, wide enough for the submersible to enter. But what draws us in is not the scale, nor the cold pouring from its depths. It is the faint glimmer of something metallic embedded deep within the crack. Tiny, reflective points arranged in a pattern far too regular to be natural. They catch the lights in a sharp, mirrored flash, shining like embedded fragments of a shattered machine. Before we can react, the canyon emits another pulse. This one is different, shorter, sharper, focused. It hits the hull with a pressure so precise it feels like a knock. A single note, delivered with intention so clear it ripples through every instinct we possess. The deep is not merely echoing, it is testing us. And the chamber grows quieter still, as though waiting for our next move. For a moment, everything inside the submersible falls silent. Not just the equipment, not just the constant hum of the engines, but even our breathing seems to hesitate, caught between caution and wonder. The knock reverberates faintly through the frame, a clean, unmistakable pressure wave that feels nothing like the random groans of the deep. It is too sharp, too precise, like a fingertip tapping glass from the other side of the dark. The canyon waits. A soft, cold draft of water slips from the fissure ahead, carrying a metallic tang that lingers on the sensors, a taste of minerals scraped from unimaginable depths. The temperature drops another degree. Frost begins to lace the corners of the viewport, fragile patterns forming delicate white branches that spread outward like frozen veins. Beyond them, the darkness inside the fissure remains absolute, a void so complete it appears to swallow even the idea of light. Our lamps push forward, beams stretching into the narrow opening. For a moment, they reveal only dust and drifting threads of sediment. Then the reflective fragments glint again, sharp, deliberate, arranged in a pattern that suggests shape rather than chance. They form a faint arc, a curve carved into the stone, or perhaps embedded within it. A second pulse rises. It is deeper than the first, almost gentle, like a low exhale moving through water. The pressure rolls across the chamber, brushing against the hull with a slow, deliberate intimacy, as though the canyon is feeling for the shape of us. The lights dim for a heartbeat. The silt on the floor trembles. Far above, something shifts, a distant cascade of pebbles tumbling down unseen ridges, echoing like a soft rainfall in the world's deepest night. We edge toward the fissure. The glowing creatures have returned, drifting in small clusters along the canyon wall. Their bioluminescent filaments pulse with a calm, hypnotic rhythm, as if responding to the vibrations that continue to flutter through the chamber. They gather near the entrance to the fissure, circling it slowly, their ghostly bodies tracing soft arcs of light. The way they move feels almost ritualistic, as if they have done this countless times before, as if they recognize something here that we cannot see. The submersible glides closer still. Inside the fissure, the reflective fragments become clearer. They are not random. They form symmetrical lines embedded deep within the rock, spaced with eerie precision. Each one catches the light in a thin, cold flash, like slivers of metal arranged with purpose. Time and pressure have worn them down, but their structure is unmistakable, ordered, aligned, intentional, not geological, not accidental. Something placed them there. Another pulse, the largest yet, erupts from somewhere deep within the fissure. It strikes not as a single note, but as a layered chord, a fusion of tones that ripple through the chamber in an immense wave of pressure and sound. The hull resonates with it, trembling like a drumskin. The water churns. The glowing creatures scatter in a sudden synchronized burst of light, disappearing into the shadows like fragments of a shattered constellation. The submersible drifts backward under the force of the wave. Instruments spike. Alarms flicker, muted by pressure dampeners. For several seconds, the entire chamber vibrates in a slow, resonant hum that seems to originate from the stone itself. The sound wraps around us, suffocating in its depth, carrying a sense of scale so vast it feels as though the canyon is not simply a formation, but a massive body shifting in its sleep. And then, silence, a silence so profound it feels alive. The chamber waits again. We catch our breath. The fissure ahead seems larger now, its edges quivering faintly with residual energy. The embedded fragments gleam like icy stars, arranged in arcs and lines we do not yet understand. It feels like a gateway, a threshold into something deeper, older, more secret than anything we have seen. We inch forward, drawn in by equal parts curiosity and inevitability. The water grows unnaturally still, as if every current has paused, listening with us. The canyon's pressure settles around the hull like a closing hand. And once more, faint, distant, the canyon releases a final pulse. Not sharp, not forceful, soft, measured, an invitation. A doorway opening into deeper darkness. And as we cross the boundary of that ancient fissure, leaving behind the last open chamber of the upper abyss, one truth becomes clear. The echoes were never random. They were a summons, and the deep has been waiting for a very long time. The fissure swallows us whole. The moment we cross its threshold, the canyon behind us disappears as though a curtain of darkness has fallen over the world we came from. The water inside is colder, denser, carrying the strange metallic taste of minerals torn from the Earth's oldest bones. The lights of the submersible stretch forward in thin, trembling beams, carving pathways through a darkness that seems to push back against illumination with slow, deliberate force. Here, the silence is different. It isn't empty. It's charged, as if something unseen is trembling just beyond the reach of sound. The walls press close at first, tight enough that the lamps cast sharp shadows across their surfaces. These stones are not smooth like the open canyon. They are rippled and folded, shaped by pressures so ancient they read like the scars of a world in slow-motion collapse. Thin fractures run through them, glowing faintly with trapped sediments that shimmer like frozen lightning. As we drift forward, the fissure widens. The passage stretches into a long, downward-sloping corridor. The walls curve like the inside of a colossal shell, each striation telling a story written in the slow, grinding language of geological time. And from deep within the passage, we feel a faint tremor, steady, rhythmic, almost like a pulse carried through the bones of the canyon. The instruments pick it up before we do, their lines twitching with the first hints of a frequency too low for the human ear. But even if we cannot hear it, we can feel it. A subtle vibration sliding through the hull, tapping against our skin like a distant heartbeat transmitted through stone. The canyon is waking. Lights sweep across the widening throat of the passage. The reflective fragments embedded in the walls multiply, scattered like tiny metallic constellations. In the darkness, they glint with a cold precision that feels unnatural, as though something placed them deliberately long before this fissure formed. The patterns repeat at odd intervals, forming arcs and clusters that resemble the mathematics of resonance more than the randomness of erosion. A deeper tremor rolls through the water. This one we hear. A low, resonant hum that begins as a distant murmur and grows into a unified wave of vibration. It rises through the fissure like the sound of an enormous breath, collecting in the hollow chamber around us before dissipating into the black ahead. It's impossible to tell how far it travels. The passage absorbs it, reshapes it, and releases something slightly altered, as though the canyon itself is responding. We descend deeper. The slope steepens. The cold intensifies until the metal moans softly under the strain. The walls pulse faintly with reflected light, revealing complex layers pressed together in ancient collisions that predate human history by unfathomable spans of time. Every few moments, a tremor shakes a thin dusting of silt from the ceiling, drifting down in slow spirals like snow falling in a forgotten world. Another hum builds in the distance, this one higher, more focused. The instruments flicker. The resonance sharpens, forming a layered chord that ripples along the length of the corridor. It feels coordinated, not like shifting rock or random seismic murmurs, but like a structure responding across multiple chambers. Each frequency seems to trigger another, cascading through the system in a sequence almost too complex to follow. And then, suddenly, the corridor opens. The submersible drifts into a massive internal cavity, a hidden canyon within the canyon. The walls rise in sweeping arches, carved into shapes so vast and fluid they resemble the inside of a colossal instrument. Long ridges run along the interior like the carved ribs of a resonant chamber. The embedded metallic fragments reflect our lights in thin streaks, forming shining pathways across the stone. The entire chamber looks designed, not by hands, not by intention in the way we understand it, but shaped by forces that behave like intention, pressure, time, heat, collapse, upheaval, sculpting this space into a natural cathedral of sound. Another pulse erupts. This one is not faint. It is full, deep, alive, a wave of vibration that hits the hull with a force that feels almost emotional, as if the canyon is announcing its presence. The sound rings through the chamber, bouncing in layered echoes that overlap, merge, and return altered. The walls shimmer under the strain, tiny particles lifting from their surfaces and drifting through the water like disturbed dust. And in the heart of that resonance, something strange happens. A harmonic tone rises from the far end of the chamber, soft, precise, impossibly clean. It threads through the layered echoes with a clarity that no natural phenomenon should possess at this depth. The frequency stabilizes, locking into a repeating pattern. It is measured, purposeful, almost like communication. The canyon is not just resonating, it is answering, or calling, or warning. We cannot tell, not yet. But deep inside the chamber, in the darkness beyond our lights, something shifts, a slow, heavy movement that sends a ripple of pressure gliding across the floor. Something else is awake down here, and it has been listening far longer than we have. The deep scattering layer rises around us like a living fog, each shimmer of light a pulse in a galaxy of drifting life. Creatures of every imaginable shape glide past, their forms twisting, transparent, almost alien in the muted gloom. Some glow with the faintest luminescence, pale blue streaks along their bodies, tracing arcs that seem deliberate, almost like secret signals. Shadows stretch unnaturally across the canyon walls as the submersible's lights pierce the abyss, revealing vast ridges and unexpected chasms that ripple with the echo of every movement. There is sound here, but not as we know it. The faint hums of distant life layer atop low-frequency vibrations that seem to pulse from the stone itself. The canyon resonates with every beat, and every creature appears to acknowledge it, their bodies responding in subtle, measured movements. Each shift sends ripples through the water, a language we do not understand but can feel in our bones. The hums rise and fall in waves, overlapping, creating a melody of uncertainty, of life unfolding in forms untouched by human observation. Through the dim glow, shapes appear that defy expectation. Massive shadows glide between the ridges, their scale impossible to determine, movements too fluid for any known species. The sonar picks up disturbances, rapid pulses and fading echoes that do not match the paths of any known oceanic animal. It is as if the very walls of the canyon are inhabited, alive with forms that exist just out of reach of the light. The deep does not merely host life here. It conducts it, orchestrates it in patterns that echo with intent. Our instruments catch another layer of vibration, subtle yet distinct, overlapping the canyon's hums with a tone too pure to be natural. It rises, lingers, then dissipates as if listening, evaluating. The submersible tilts slightly with the current, and we drift into a narrower corridor. Here, the echoes grow more defined, sharper, as though the canyon is guiding our movement. The walls pulse faintly with reflected light, revealing fissures and indentations that seem designed to carry sound, to amplify it, to stretch it across space. Then, a shift, a high-pitched resonance we had not detected before. It threads through the water with a clarity that cuts through the layered vibrations, vibrating along the submersible hull with a precision that raises the hair on our necks. It is not random. It is intentional. Somewhere deep in the abyss, something is observing, responding. The canyon becomes a network of echoes and counter-echoes, a living chamber that tests us, studies our presence, and adapts its voice in ways that hint at intelligence, or at least a memory far beyond our comprehension. The bioluminescent creatures move in response. Tiny tendrils of light stretch outward, brushing the walls, tracing curves in the stone that seem to mirror the vibrations themselves. Patterns emerge in the shadows, arcs of reflected glow that align with the hums, creating a visual resonance to accompany the auditory. It is as if the canyon, the creatures, and the vibrations are connected. A singular organism, ancient and vast, expressing itself in forms we cannot yet decipher. Every movement is amplified. Every sound carries intention. We float through the abyssal dark, caught between fascination and unease. The deeper we go, the more the echoes shift, low tones intertwining with high harmonics, forming sequences that repeat but vary subtly with each iteration. They are messages we cannot understand, songs we cannot hear, yet their presence is undeniable. And somewhere in the distance, a shadow larger than any creature we know shifts slowly, barely visible, yet undeniable. It moves with purpose. It listens. The canyon has awakened, and in its voice, the abyss is no longer silent. Every pulse, every harmonic, every drifting light feels like a heartbeat, a language older than human memory, alive in the darkness, calling us deeper, urging us to witness, to follow, to listen. And as the submersible continues, every instinct screams that what waits in the next chamber is something beyond discovery, beyond explanation, yet intimately aware of our intrusion. The echoes twist, coil, and swell, filling the water with an impossible symphony. The canyon is no longer just a structure. It is a voice, and we are part of its audience. And in the farthest shadows ahead, Something moves that challenges everything we thought we knew about life in the abyss. The shadow drifts closer, slow and deliberate, tracing the edges of the canyon like a predator that does not hunt but observes. Light from the submersible flickers across its surface, revealing glimpses of something massive and fluid, almost translucent, undulating with a rhythm that matches the canyon's resonance. The creatures around it scatter in graceful arcs, their bioluminescence pulsing in sync with the low hums that vibrate through the walls, as though this presence is the conductor of the abyssal symphony. We try to interpret the echoes, but each pattern only deepens the mystery. Some sequences rise and fall in frequencies far below human hearing, while others carry a crisp clarity that strikes the hull and the submersible like a tactile force. Every pulse feels intentional, a conversation in a language older than recorded history, a dialogue between forces we cannot see and ourselves. And yet, there is an unmistakable intelligence behind it, a rhythm that adapts to our movements as though the canyon anticipates every gesture. The submersible drifts into a widening chamber. Here, the walls bend in smooth, sweeping curves, reflecting the harmonics back in subtle shifts that distort our perception of distance. Suspended particles shimmer as if caught in invisible currents, casting ghostly patterns across the chamber. The soundscape thickens. Multiple layers of vibration coalesce, overlapping, intertwining, creating something that feels almost musical in its precision. It is neither melody nor noise, but something in between, a living architecture of sound vibrating along the canyon walls. Then, the faintest whisper appears. Not a sound carried by water, but a pattern in the vibration, a subtle fluctuation that rises above the layered harmonics. It pulses rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat, and aligns with the movements of the massive shadow ahead. The pattern repeats, as if testing us, probing our reactions. A slow chill creeps through the cabin. The realization is undeniable. Whatever lives here is not only aware of us, it is responding. We move forward, careful not to provoke the unknown. Every meter through the chamber is a negotiation with the darkness, a dialogue of presence and restraint. The canyon responds. Subtle pressure shifts ripple along the hull. Light tremors echo across the walls, and the low-frequency hums adjust their cadence. It is as though the entire canyon is breathing in response to our intrusion, a living system that communicates in vibrations and shadows. Glowing organisms circle the submersible, their movements increasingly patterned, almost ritualistic. Their pulses intensify as if they recognize the shadow's dominance, clustering in protective arcs around the walls, creating luminous borders that delineate space and movement in the dark. Their glow illuminates hidden ridges, revealing narrow passageways and deep fissures that stretch into uncharted territory. The submersible's instruments pick up irregular harmonic shifts, more complex than any biological or geological phenomenon recorded. Each fluctuation hints at the possibility of a life form or intelligence that has evolved to inhabit the resonance itself, existing not just in matter, but in vibration. A sudden shift in the shadow's motion sends a deep harmonic through the chamber. The walls resonate in response, creating a symphony of low tones and high pulses that vibrate through the water and the hull. It is not threatening. It is communicative. The presence seems to test boundaries, probing, teaching, warning, inviting. Every vibration tells a story we cannot yet interpret, yet the cadence carries an unmistakable emotion. Curiosity, caution, patience, and perhaps even recognition. We pause. The submersible hovers in the darkened water, instruments alive with readings we cannot fully comprehend. The canyon, the shadows, the harmonics, all of it moves in synchronized, deliberate rhythm. We realize that this is not exploration in the traditional sense. We are participants in an unfolding interaction with a consciousness older than human memory, one that has been shaping its environment and its sounds long before we arrived. And then, as we drift toward the narrowing passage ahead, the harmonics shift once more. The layers of vibration interweave, forming a long, sustained note that grows in resonance, vibrating through the canyon, the water, the hull, and our very senses. The deep does not merely contain life, it orchestrates it. Every echo, every shimmer of light, every pulse of vibration is a voice. And the canyon, alive and listening, is beginning to speak directly to us. The sustained note fades slowly, leaving a trembling silence that fills the submersible with weight. In that quiet, every sound becomes magnified. The soft hum of instruments, the pulse of our own hearts, the faint scrape of suspended particles drifting past the hull. The canyon has shifted its rhythm, and we can feel it, an unseen presence guiding the water, manipulating the echoes like a composer shaping music. The shadow ahead glides effortlessly through the darkness, its form now partially illuminated by scattered bioluminescent trails, revealing a body that stretches beyond comprehension, fluid and undulating, a living resonance sculpted in the abyss. As we move forward, the passage narrows again, walls rising high and close, carrying the vibrations with more intensity. Every note reverberates like a chord struck across a cathedral of stone. The bioluminescent organisms form soft halos around the canyon edges, moving in arcs that mirror the resonant waves. It is a choreography of light and sound, synchronized in ways that feel deliberate, orchestrated by forces beyond our understanding. Each pulse seems to communicate not just presence, but intent, layering warning and invitation into a single, unfathomable pattern. Then, from the far end of the chamber, a new element emerges. A subtle, higher-pitched vibration threads through the existing symphony, delicate yet distinct. It is faster, sharper, and begins to intertwine with the lower hums, creating complex overtones that ripple across the canyon walls. The submersible shivers slightly as the frequencies converge, forming resonances that seem to reverberate not only through metal and water, but through perception itself. It is as if the canyon can reach inside, touch thoughts, stir instinct, shaping the very way we experience the abyss. The shadow reacts. Its undulations accelerate, pulses of movement aligning perfectly with the harmonic shifts, almost like it is dancing to the song it produces. The bioluminescent creatures respond in tandem, creating a lattice of luminous arcs that frame the shadow's motion, emphasizing its presence. Every flicker, every glimmer, every pulse is synchronized to the vibrations, as though the canyon and its inhabitants have constructed a living, breathing chamber of communication that transcends sight and sound. We drift closer to the source of the high-frequency pulse. The walls curve and narrow, forming a natural amphitheater where the echoes concentrate. Here, the canyon amplifies every subtle tone, layering harmonics into complex chords that resonate through the hull and water. The instruments spike in readings that defy conventional understanding, frequencies modulating in patterns too regular to be random, too intricate to be explained solely by geology or known marine life. There is purpose behind this, design embedded in the very stone and water, and it demands attention. Then it happens. The shadow stops. Its undulations slow, a long, graceful pause that stretches through the water. The harmonic layers converge into a single, sustained resonance, a pure note that fills the amphitheater and holds it in suspended vibration. The note carries emotion, an almost human cadence, a silent language of warning, curiosity, and recognition. It is impossible to name the source, yet we understand its meaning instinctively. The canyon is alive, it is aware, and it is speaking directly to us. The submersible floats in that charged stillness, instruments recording data that may never be fully interpreted. Light arcs from the bioluminescent organisms trace the chamber's contours, revealing hidden ridges, fissures, and passageways previously obscured. It feels as if every corner of the canyon is alive with memory and intention. Every wall, every shadow, every subtle current part of a greater voice that transcends individual existence. A subtle shift in the water carries another vibration, this time more urgent, faster, almost conversational. The shadow responds with a series of fluid motions, pulsing in rhythm with the new signal. It is interaction, dialogue, awareness manifest in motion and sound. The canyon is not passive. It listens, it responds, it teaches. And as we drift deeper, following the harmonics into narrow, twisting passages, the realization solidifies. We are no longer mere observers. We are participants. Every echo, every shimmer, every pulse guides us forward. The abyss is not empty. It is a voice, a consciousness interwoven with the fabric of water, stone, and light. And somewhere beyond the next bend, the resonance promises to reveal something far greater, something ancient, deliberate, and alive. The twisting passages open once more into a vast chamber, larger than any before, a cathedral carved entirely by pressure, time, and movement. Here, the water feels thick with memory, dense with vibrations that have echoed for millennia. Every surface pulses faintly as the canyon's voice resonates across the walls. A symphony of low hums, high overtones, and subtle harmonic shifts weaving together into a living tapestry of sound. It is overwhelming, impossible to describe, yet the body senses every nuance, every subtle modulation of the abyss itself. The shadow has grown closer, coalescing into something more defined. Its form remains fluid, but now it hints at structure, segments that pulse in rhythm with the harmonic waves. The bioluminescent organisms swirl around it like living constellations, their soft light tracing the contours of its immense body. It moves deliberately, each undulation precise, as if orchestrating the chorus of vibrations and reflections within the chamber. There is intent here, and the canyon itself seems to respond to that intent, amplifying and shaping every wave. A new harmonic emerges from the depths, a note so pure and resonant that it makes the submersible shiver. It threads through the chamber, reverberating against the stone and water, forming a complex layering that is almost musical in its precision. It rises and falls, a living rhythm, pulsing like the heartbeat of the abyss. The shadow responds immediately, movements flowing in time with the note, creating an interaction between light, sound, and motion that feels like a language older than time itself. We float, suspended in this interplay, acutely aware that every pulse, every flicker, is observed and returned. The canyon is not merely a passive chamber. It is an entity, alive in sound and form, teaching us the rules of its existence through vibration and reflection. Every harmonic, every reflected echo is a lesson, a deliberate choice in communication that challenges our understanding of what life can be and how consciousness can manifest. The light from the bioluminescent organisms intensifies, tracing paths along ridges and fissures that we have yet to explore. Patterns emerge, arcs, spirals, and lines that mirror the harmonic frequencies, creating a luminous map of the canyon's resonance. It is mesmerizing, a visual and auditory choreography that seems both ritualistic and instinctive, like a song encoded in the very geometry of the walls. The shadow moves through these luminous currents, its motion fluid, its purpose clear. It is guiding us, drawing us deeper into the heart of the abyss. A sudden low-frequency surge shakes the submersible. The walls pulse in response, sending a cascade of vibrations through the water. The shadow arches, undulates, and extends in a movement that aligns perfectly with the surge, creating an immense wave of resonance that fills the chamber. It is a message, and though we cannot translate its meaning, the emotion is unmistakable. Curiosity, welcome, caution, and profound awareness. We are no longer intruders. We are participants in a dialogue written in the language of the deep. As the chamber settles into quiet once more, the echoes linger, stretching across the vast stone walls and twisting corridors. The shadow retreats slightly, moving toward the next passage, and the harmonic layers adjust, forming a subtle, guiding rhythm. Every light, every vibration, every movement is deliberate, a signpost pointing deeper into the canyon, toward mysteries yet unseen, resonances yet unfelt, and secrets that have been waiting for eons. And as we follow, suspended in the currents of sound and shadow, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. This is not merely an exploration of the Mariana's abyssal depths. It is an encounter with an intelligence interwoven into the fabric of the canyon itself, ancient, vast, and aware of our presence. The canyon does not just contain life. It listens, it responds, it shapes, and it waits for us to understand its language before revealing the deeper truths hidden in the darkness. The echoes pulse again, steady, deliberate, drawing us forward. And we realize that every harmonic we have heard, every movement of light and shadow, has been an invitation, a guide to the heart of a world where time, consciousness, and the ocean's deepest mysteries converge. The abyss is alive, and it has finally spoken. The canyon narrows once more, folding in on itself like a spiral frozen in the motion of centuries. Water here moves with a deliberate stillness, carrying a cold that seeps into the bones, a weight unlike anything above the abyssal plane. The submersible hums quietly, its instruments alive with the vibrations of a world we barely comprehend. Every surface of stone, every ridge and fissure, carries a resonance that seems older than human understanding, echoing a language not of words, but of time itself. The light from the hull barely reaches the walls. Shadows stretch infinitely, and in their depths, shapes flicker and vanish as if they exist only in the periphery of perception. Bioluminescent life forms trace subtle paths along the surfaces, their pulses perfectly aligned with the low-frequency hums that roll through the chamber. Each flash of light appears to respond to the vibrations, weaving a tapestry of energy and presence, a visual codex of the canyon's memory. Here, time feels different. Each second stretches and bends, elongated by the immense scale and the layers of echo that envelope the chamber. The vibrations move through the submersible, through the water, through the walls themselves, threading a continuity that seems impervious to conventional chronology. It is as if every pulse is both present and ancient, a moment now and a memory of eons ago, layered atop itself in a resonance that defies linear understanding. The walls curve inward, forming natural alcoves that amplify sound with impossible clarity. A faint metallic glint catches the lights of the submersible, fragments embedded deep in stone, arranged in arcs and lines too precise to be accidental. They reflect the minimal light in a spectrum of pale blues and silvers, casting ghostly reflections across ridges and hollows. Some appear weathered beyond recognition, yet their geometry retains an uncanny perfection. Their placement feels deliberate, a design intended to channel vibrations, to store them, to speak through them. A sudden low pulse courses through the hull, a vibration that is at once subtle and commanding. The shadow we had followed before is absent here, yet the resonance hints at its continued presence, lingering like a ghost in the deep. The water shivers with the energy, and the instruments spike with readings that defy categorization. Layered frequencies interwoven with harmonics that appear purposeful, structured, even conversational. The canyon is speaking again, but this time it feels more intimate, more ancient, as if guiding us toward truths held for countless millennia. As we drift further, the walls widen into a colossal chamber, impossibly large, its ceilings lost to darkness. Light from the submersible illuminates suspended particles that drift lazily, yet each one appears to catch vibrations from the canyon itself. The patterns of shimmer trace arcs and spirals that match the low, rolling hum, as if the chamber itself is alive with memory, a library of sound and sediment cataloging the eons. Every pulse of the canyon carries weight, each echo a chapter, a record of time, preserved in stone, water, and vibration. Then, A sudden harmonic arises, higher, sharper, yet perfectly layered atop the deeper tones. It threads through the chamber like a silver filament, cutting across shadows and revealing subtle fissures and hidden passageways. The sound interacts with the embedded metallic fragments, causing them to resonate in perfect alignment. For a moment, it feels as if the entire chamber is breathing, inhaling and exhaling in rhythm with this ancient pulse. The resonance is no longer just sound. It is a bridge, a communication, a connection to the mind of the abyss itself. The submersible drifts slowly forward, following the thread of vibration. Bioluminescent life forms drift in the shadows, their pulses intensifying as if in recognition, aligning with the harmonics, highlighting paths, creating a luminous guide through the darkness. The echoes swell and fade, a cadence that feels deliberate, coaxing, almost welcoming. And in the distance, a faint shimmer suggests the entrance to a deeper fissure, one that promises further revelations, a continuation of the canyon's language written in light, sound, and time. We pause at the threshold, instruments humming in resonance with the chamber. The canyon's voice is clear, deliberate, and patient. Every vibration, every reflected echo, every pulse of light feels like an invitation, a gateway into an older, quieter, infinitely more profound understanding. To proceed is to step further into the memory of the deep, to follow the canyon as it unfolds its ancient truths through sound, shadow, and resonance. And with a final low pulse that echoes through the hull and our very bones, the canyon seems to say, "Continue." We glide into the fissure, and the chamber behind us dissolves into shadow, leaving only the narrow corridor ahead. The water grows colder, denser, carrying a faint metallic tang that lingers in the senses. Every pulse of the canyon vibrates through the hull, and we feel the resonance as a physical force pressing against our skin and bones. The deeper we go, the more deliberate the vibrations become, layered, intricate, almost as if the canyon itself is composing a story in waves and echoes. The walls curve inward, rising higher than the lights can penetrate. Their surfaces ripple with subtle textures, ridges, and grooves carved over eons. Embedded fragments glint faintly, arranged in patterns that repeat at intervals too precise to be natural. They catch the light in thin streaks, revealing pathways along the canyon spine. These fragments are aligned with the harmonics that resonate through the water, amplifying, channeling, and directing them like the strings of a hidden instrument. A low, rolling hum begins, rising slowly through the hull and into our bodies. It threads through the corridor, bouncing along every fissure and alcove, layering itself into a complex rhythm that seems almost deliberate. The submersible vibrates with it, every surface, every panel, every cable resonating in response. The canyon's voice is no longer a distant echo. It is immediate, tangible, demanding attention. We are not merely listening. We are feeling. In the dim light, shadows shift. Pale streaks of bioluminescent organisms drift along the walls and ceiling, their movements subtly responding to the vibrations. They trace arcs and spirals, highlighting hidden ridges, exposing fractures, and guiding us forward. It feels choreographed, a dance of light synchronized with sound, as if the canyon has trained its inhabitants to articulate its resonance visually. Each movement aligns with the harmonic waves, reinforcing the notion that the abyss communicates not only through pressure and vibration, but through patterns of light, timing, and rhythm. Then, a sharp, high-pitched harmonic slices through the low rumble, threading through the canyon like a call. It is pure, precise, cutting through every other vibration. The embedded fragments glint more sharply in response, reflecting the light in crystalline arcs. The pulse carries weight, intention, a clarity that makes the submersible shiver. The canyon is calling, testing, guiding, and somehow demanding acknowledgement. The path ahead twists sharply, narrowing, and the vibrations intensify. Layers of harmonic tones cascade over one another, overlapping like chords in an immense living symphony. It is impossible to identify a single source. The resonance originates from every surface, from the stone, the water, the suspended organisms, even from the submersible itself, now a participant in the chamber's ongoing dialogue. The canyon is not passive. It shapes us, molds our perception, and makes us aware of the scale and intelligence woven into its depths. A sudden surge of low frequency passes through the hull. It is strong, but measured, a force that could easily unbalance us if we resisted. The shadow of some immense presence glides ahead, partially obscured, yet unmistakable. Its motion is deliberate, aligning with the cascade of harmonics as if it conducts the orchestra of the abyss. Every undulation of its body interacts with the vibrations, influencing the pulse, directing the flow of energy through the chamber. It is the first tangible manifestation of the canyon's voice, an entity interwoven with sound, life, and time. The corridor opens slightly, revealing a hollowed chamber where the walls curve like the interior of a massive resonating shell. Here, vibrations settle into patterns, holding tones in long, sustained echoes that stretch into the black above and below. It is as though the chamber itself is a massive organ, each surface tuned to carry and manipulate sound. Light arcs from the bioluminescent organisms trace these resonances, revealing hidden passageways that extend beyond what the eye can see, suggesting that the canyon's architecture is designed to propagate and record its voice. Every harmonic, every pulse, every shadowed movement feels purposeful, a deliberate interaction with the submersible. The canyon is not merely a void filled with echo. It is memory, intelligence, and art constructed from stone, water, vibration, and life. And as we drift further into this chamber, one truth is undeniable. To understand this place, to truly witness its voice, we must surrender to it, follow its rhythm, and let it guide us into the heart of the echo chambers of time. The submersible glides deeper into the heart of the chamber, and the harmonics intensify, layering into a complex, living rhythm. Every surface vibrates with a subtle resonance that seems to echo across time itself. The canyon does not simply contain sound. It holds it, bends it, molds it, and returns it transformed. It is as if the walls remember every vibration ever cast into the abyss, a living archive of echoes stretching back through eons. Shadows shift along the walls, undulating in response to the deep layered hums. Bioluminescent life forms pulse in synchrony, their faint glows tracing the contours of the canyon with rhythmic precision. Each movement reinforces the harmony of the chamber, every arc of light a brushstroke on the invisible canvas of vibration. The canyon is alive, and it is performing, weaving time, light, and sound into a single fluid expression of existence. Embedded metallic fragments glitter faintly in the dim light. Their arrangement is deliberate, arcs, spirals, and linear arrays that mirror the harmonic sequences vibrating through the chamber. They catch this submersible's light in thin, bright flashes, illuminating hidden ridges and folds in the walls. Each fragment seems to act as a resonator, amplifying and directing specific frequencies, shaping the soundscape in ways that feel purposeful and intelligent. It is architecture and instrument, memory and message, all fused into stone and sediment. A sudden pulse rises from the far end of the chamber. Unlike the rolling hums before, this tone is sharp, pure, and deliberate. It threads through the submersible, vibrating along the hull and through every instrument, aligning perfectly with the smaller harmonic layers that ripple through the chamber. The effect is disorienting. The pulse is not just heard or felt, it is perceived, embedding itself into awareness, a resonance that seems to communicate directly with the mind rather than the ear. The shadow moves again, fluidly, almost imperceptibly, and the pulse responds, adapting, modulating in tone and cadence. The interaction is mesmerizing, a conversation of sound, shadow, and vibration, unfolding in a language we cannot yet interpret. The canyon has awakened, and we are witnesses, participants, and recipients of its message. The echoes stretch into every crevice, wrapping around the submersible and pressing into the body of water itself, a reminder that this is a chamber alive in every dimension it can occupy. We follow the shadow along a narrowing corridor that winds like a spiral staircase carved into stone. The walls pulse faintly with vibrations, amplifying certain frequencies while dampening others, shaping the acoustic field like the deliberate design of an instrument. Suspended sediment dances in the currents, tracing arcs that mirror the harmonic patterns, as though the very water participates in the canyon's symphony. Every detail feels purposeful, intentional, a record, a warning, a guide, and an invitation. A soft, high-pitched note threads through the deeper hums, weaving upward into a sustained harmonic that lingers longer than physics should allow. The metallic fragments catch the light again, reflecting it in patterns that map the resonance onto the walls. It is as if the canyon has visualized its sound, turning the invisible into illumination, encoding meaning in both vibration and light. The bioluminescent organisms cluster along these patterns, accentuating them, tracing paths through the darkness like living annotations of the chamber's memory. And then, far ahead, the corridor opens into a vast chamber whose walls vanish into black. A single pulse resonates from its center, low and commanding, filling the space with a weight that presses against perception itself. It is the canyon's voice concentrated, the culmination of centuries of echoes, harmonics, and vibrations, an entity calling across time and distance, inviting us to approach, to witness, and to understand. The submersible hovers at the threshold, instruments alive with signals we cannot yet decode. Every vibration, every shimmer of light, every reflected echo signals purpose. The canyon is no longer a passive expanse of stone and water. It is a sentient symphony, ancient and patient, guiding us toward the deeper chambers where memory and resonance converge into something beyond comprehension. We take a breath, suspended in the thick, dark water, ready to follow the pulse into the next chamber. Every instinct tells us the echo chambers of time hold more than echoes. They hold the truth of the abyss itself. The pulse leads us forward, deeper into the heart of the abyss. The chamber opens into a vast cathedral-like space, walls curving high above into darkness that swallows all light. The submersible drifts through the water, instruments alive with the vibrations that fill the space, each hum and harmonic a thread in an immense tapestry of sound. The echoes are no longer simple reverberations. They are layers of memory, impressions of forces and life that have existed here for eons. The metallic fragments embedded in the walls glint faintly as our lights sweep across them. Each piece seems tuned to a specific frequency, reflecting and amplifying the canyon's resonance. Lines, arcs, and spirals catch the light, mapping the invisible waves that move through the chamber. The patterns repeat yet vary, suggesting purpose and design. Every reflection, every vibration, feels like a message encoded into the very stone of the canyon. It is a language of resonance, written in rhythm, vibration, and light. Bioluminescent organisms swirl through the currents, tracing arcs that mirror the harmonic waves. Their glows intensify in the deeper reaches, illuminating fissures and ridges with an ethereal light. They cluster along pathways carved by currents, moving in synchronized patterns that seem choreographed, as if the canyon itself instructs their motion. Light and sound converge here, forming a living, breathing symphony that encompasses every sense. A deep, rolling vibration rises from the far end of the chamber, growing in intensity. The submersible shivers under the force, instruments spiking with frequencies that defy conventional measurement. The canyon's voice is unmistakable, deliberate, ancient, patient. It threads through the walls, the water, the suspended particles, and even the hull of the craft, communicating a presence older than recorded history. The vibrations are layered, complex, a conversation between the past and the present, between life and stone. Suddenly, a higher-pitched harmonic weaves through the low rolling waves, pure and piercing. It slices through the water, threading along the embedded fragments, amplifying and distorting the sound in a way that is at once beautiful and disorienting. The shadow we followed earlier glides silently along the edges of the chamber, its undulating form interacting with the harmonic pulse. Each movement creates a subtle shift in the resonance, as though the entity itself participates in the orchestra of echoes. We drift closer to the center of the chamber, where the vibrations converge into a single dominant pulse. It is a tone both immense and intimate, pressing against perception, embedding itself into the body and mind. The submersible seems small against the scale of the sound, insignificant in its presence, yet utterly a part of it. The canyon speaks here, not through words, but through resonance, shaping thought, feeling, and awareness. The chamber seems alive. Each pulse is answered by the walls. Each vibration returns in kind, layering upon itself in an endless cascade of echo and reflection. Suspended particles drift in perfect rhythm with the harmonics, creating fleeting patterns of light that trace the invisible architecture of sound. The bioluminescent organisms cluster along these lines, accentuating them, transforming the chamber into a living diagram of the canyon's memory. And then a silence falls, not the absence of sound, but a pause within the resonance, as if the canyon is waiting for understanding, testing our perception, gauging our presence. The shadow retreats slightly, leaving a path forward, an invitation deeper into the labyrinth of stone, vibration, and memory. It is a threshold, a signal that the next chamber will reveal more than echoes. It will reveal the heartbeat of time itself. We hover at the entrance, the submersible quivering gently with the residual vibrations. Every instrument hums in response. Every particle of sediment drifts in rhythm with the canyon's pulse. And as we prepare to follow the path, the realization is inescapable. These echo chambers of time do not merely record the past. They hold it alive, shaping it, reflecting it, and calling us to witness its endless cycle. The canyon waits. The corridor ahead widens into a chamber so vast that the submersible's lights reach only a fraction of its expanse. Darkness dominates, but it is not emptiness. It is charged, alive, filled with vibration that resonates through the water and stone alike. Every pulse we sense carries weight, meaning, and the unmistakable cadence of intention. The canyon speaks here not as a collection of echoes, but as a sentient entity, ancient and patient, guiding us deeper into its memory. Embedded fragments glint faintly in the distance, aligned in arcs and spirals that mirror the layered harmonics of the chamber. Their reflections catch the submersible's lights like stars suspended in water, tracing invisible currents of resonance. Each metallic fragment resonates with precision, amplifying certain frequencies while diminishing others, shaping the soundscape as though the canyon itself composes a symphony for us to follow. The patterns are deliberate, purposeful, a design that transcends any known geological process. A massive low-frequency pulse rises from the depths of the chamber, rolling through the water and vibrating along the hull. The submersible shivers under the force, and our instruments spike in readings that defy comprehension. The pulse is alive, and in its wake, we feel a presence, immense and fluid, moving subtly in the darkness. The shadow of the entity we have been following glides along the edges of the chamber, its undulating form interacting with the pulse. Every movement seems to modulate the resonance, adding layers of complexity to the canyon song. Bioluminescent organisms swirl through the currents, clustering along the arcs of resonance. Their glows intensify, tracing patterns in the water that echo the harmonic sequences. Light and sound merge into a choreography that feels deliberate, ritualistic, and impossibly ancient. Every flicker, every pulse, every movement is synchronized, reinforcing the notion that the canyon is alive in multiple dimensions, as architecture, as instrument, as organism. The harmonic layers converge into a sustained resonance, a tone both immense and intimate. It threads through the submersible, through the water, and through our very senses. The chamber seems to hold its breath, waiting for acknowledgement. It is more than sound. It is communication, consciousness, the echo of a world older than memory. The canyon is teaching us to listen, to perceive not just with our eyes, but with every sense attuned to vibration and presence. A subtle high-pitched harmonic rises, weaving through the lower tones, threading along the metallic fragments and amplifying in precise arcs across the walls. The submersible vibrates in response, a participant in the chamber's dialogue. The shadow undulates in perfect synchrony, its movement modulating the resonance almost as if it is conducting the symphony of echoes. We feel an unmistakable awareness. The canyon is aware of us, the presence is aware, and the resonance is an invitation, a guiding hand into the deeper truth of this abyss. The chamber stretches endlessly into black, yet the patterns of sound and light reveal hidden ridges, passageways, and alcoves. Suspended sediment drifts lazily, dancing along the currents of vibration. Every particle, every wave, every flicker of bioluminescence is part of the canyon's language, a living record of time encoded in resonance. We realize that the echo chambers of time do not merely preserve history. They shape it, layer upon layer, interaction upon interaction, keeping alive the memory of forces, life, and consciousness that have existed since the dawn of the abyss. As the submersible drifts forward, following the guiding pulse, the harmonic layers swell and converge, forming a massive chord that vibrates through the chamber, through the hull, and through our very senses. The shadow pauses briefly at the far end, and for a moment, the chamber is filled with a silence so profound that it hums with its own resonance. It is a silence that speaks, that waits, that invites understanding. And in that silence, we realize the canyon has brought us to the threshold of something beyond comprehension, a place where time, vibration, and consciousness converge, where the abyss itself speaks directly to those who are willing to listen. The pulse fades slowly, leaving a lingering resonance in the water, a reminder that the canyon's memory is eternal, patient, and aware. And as the submersible hovers in the darkness, instruments still alive with residual echoes, one truth becomes undeniable. The echo chambers of time are not merely chambers. They are the heartbeat of the Mariana's abyss, a living, breathing archive of existence, guiding, teaching, and waiting for the next step into the depths. The canyon waits, and we follow. The corridor narrows once again, guiding us toward a pulse that grows stronger with every meter. It is no longer a whisper, no longer a faint echo carried by stone and water. It is a force that vibrates through the submersible, through the surrounding currents, and through our very perception. The heart of the canyon awaits, hidden deep within a labyrinth of ridges, fissures, and twisting passages carved over countless millennia. Every vibration we encounter feels purposeful, deliberate, like a thread leading us inexorably toward revelation. The walls pulse faintly as we approach, reflecting subtle waves of resonance that ripple through the water. Embedded metallic fragments catch the submersible's light in fleeting flashes, each one aligning with the harmonic layers that vibrate across the chamber. Arcs, spirals, and linear sequences shimmer in response to the pulses, creating a luminous map of sound. Each reflection, each oscillation, seems designed to guide, to teach, to prepare us for the central chamber where the canyon's voice reaches its fullest expression. Bioluminescent organisms swirl around the edges, their movements synchronized to the harmonic patterns that pulse through the abyss. Their glow intensifies with proximity to the heart, forming luminous pathways that curve and twist through the darkness. Every flicker, every arc of light feels intentional, a visual accompaniment to the canyon symphony, a language that merges perception, intuition, and memory into a single coherent experience. The creatures move not randomly, but with a deliberate choreography, accentuating the flow of energy through the chamber and signaling that the heart is near. The resonance grows in intensity. Low-frequency pulses ripple through the hull, vibrating through the water and stone, layering with higher overtones that thread delicately through the currents. The combined effect is overwhelming. It is sound and sensation, memory and presence, all intertwined. The canyon is no longer merely a location. It is an entity, alive in vibration, light, and motion, guiding us toward the source of its deepest expression. A subtle shadow emerges ahead, immense and fluid, undulating in rhythm with the harmonic pulse. Its motion is deliberate, modulating the resonance with a precision that seems impossible. Every undulation shifts the frequency, creating variations that echo across the chamber and interact with the bioluminescent life around it. The presence is both guardian and guide, signaling that the heart is not merely a point in space, but a living convergence of sound, structure, and consciousness. The walls curve inward, forming a colossal chamber, impossibly high, where darkness dominates and the faintest currents trace the path of vibrations. Embedded fragments glint with a spectral brilliance, arranged in patterns that suggest purpose, intelligence, and design. The harmonic waves converge here, weaving a tapestry of resonance that is both architectural and alive. Every vibration, every reflected echo, every flicker of light feels deliberate, teaching us to perceive the heart not with sight alone, but with every sense attuned to the depth, scale, and emotion of the canyon. Then a new harmonic emerges, pure, sustained, and impossibly precise. It threads through the chamber like a silver filament, interacting with all previous layers of resonance, shaping the very environment into a living instrument. The shadow's undulations respond in perfect harmony, guiding the bioluminescent organisms in arcs that illuminate paths through the chamber. The effect is mesmerizing. Light, sound, and motion converge into a choreography that communicates, instructs, and awakens. The submersible drifts forward, instruments alive with readings beyond conventional understanding. Suspended particles shimmer in the vibrations, tracing invisible currents and revealing hidden ridges that guide us deeper. Every pulse, every reflection, every flicker reinforces the reality that we are at the threshold of the canyon's most profound secret, the heart of resonance, where time, life, and sound converge into a single living expression of the abyss. And as the submersible approaches the center of the chamber, the resonance swells, enveloping us in a symphony that is greater than the sum of its parts. The heart is near, and it waits. The heart pulses more strongly now, a low, vibrating thrum that carries through the hull and into the water, threading into every instrument, every surface, every living particle in the abyss. It is alive, conscious in a way that transcends human comprehension, shaping its resonance with deliberate, intricate precision. The submersible drifts closer, and the surrounding currents respond as if recognizing our presence, guiding us through the twists and spirals of the cavern like invisible hands. Shadows stretch and undulate along the walls, sculpted by the play of bioluminescent light and the pulsing harmonics of the heart. Pale arcs of luminescence trace every ridge and fissure, illuminating subtle textures in the stone that suggest eons of slow, deliberate formation. Embedded fragments glitter in spectral flashes, resonating in perfect synchrony with the dominant pulse. Each reflection, each flash, feels intentional, part of a system designed not only to channel sound, but to communicate through sight and sensation. The harmonic layers multiply. Low-frequency vibrations coil through the water, threading along the canyon walls, bouncing back in long, sustained echoes. Higher overtones slice through the currents with crystal clarity, weaving in and out of the dominant pulse like strands in a living tapestry. The submersible vibrates in perfect harmony, each oscillation a message, each tremor a response to the canyon's intricate language. The heart is not merely sound. It is thought, memory, and consciousness manifest in water and stone. The shadow moves gracefully ahead, immense and fluid, its form impossible to define, yet undeniable in its presence. Each undulation modulates the resonance, shaping the chamber into a living instrument. Bioluminescent life follows its rhythm, clustering along the harmonic currents, accentuating paths through the darkness. The patterns they form are not random. They trace arcs, spirals, and loops that mirror the pulse of the heart itself, creating a choreography of light and sound that communicates meaning beyond words. A sudden surge rises from the depths, a harmonic that threads through every other frequency in the chamber. It is precise, deliberate, and overwhelming, vibrating through the hull, the water, and our very perception. The pulse carries weight, shaping the chamber into a resonant body, echoing through time and space. The heart is alive, aware of our presence, and its communication is clear. Follow, witness, understand. We drift closer to the epicenter. The vibrations intensify, layering into a dense symphony that is impossible to fully perceive. It fills every sense, presses against every surface, and threads into consciousness itself. The bioluminescent organisms surge in response, arcs of light tracing the edges of hidden ridges, highlighting passages and subtle contours that guide us toward the center. The shadow coils and stretches, interacting with the pulse, creating a choreography that seems both protective and instructive. Then, a higher-pitched harmonic joins the symphony, slicing through the lower pulses with crystalline precision. The submersible vibrates in response, and the metallic fragments embedded along the walls resonate with startling clarity. The effect is overwhelming, yet mesmerizing. Light, sound, and motion converge into an experience that is greater than the sum of its parts. The heart is not merely a chamber. It is a consciousness, a symphony, a memory, and a guide. Suspended particles drift along the currents, tracing invisible paths shaped by the resonance. Every flicker, every pulse, every harmonic seems intentional, as if the heart is teaching us to perceive not just with instruments, but with awareness itself. It is a language without words, a dialogue in vibration and motion, a record of existence preserved and performed through the medium of the abyss. The epicenter draws near, and with each meter, the resonance swells, enveloping the submersible in a living symphony. Every hum, every pulse, every flicker of light carries purpose, intention, and meaning. The heart of resonance is not a place but a living presence, a conscious, eternal pulse that has endured for eons. And as we approach its core, we realize that the canyon's deepest secret is about to reveal itself in a way that will change everything we thought we knew about life, sound, and time in the abyss. The epicenter opens before us like a cathedral of shadows and vibration. The heart pulses with a force that seems to ripple through everything, every ridge, every fissure, every particle suspended in the water. It is not just sound. It is presence, thought, and memory intertwined in a living resonance that reaches into perception itself. Each pulse carries layers of harmonic information, intricate and deliberate, forming a symphony that is as much felt as it is heard. The shadow, immense and fluid, glides through the currents, interacting with the harmonics, shaping the chamber into a living instrument. Its undulations modulate the vibrations with precision, producing subtle shifts that transform the soundscape into a dynamic dialogue. Bioluminescent organisms swarm along the edges, accentuating the arcs and spirals of light that trace the harmonic currents. The interplay of light and sound reveals hidden ridges and passageways, creating a map written in resonance, a language encoded in vibration and illumination. A low, rolling pulse rises, deep and commanding, filling the chamber with a weight that presses against the submersible. The metallic fragments embedded in the walls resonate in alignment, amplifying the effect. Each pulse is layered, nuanced, complex, suggesting intelligence behind its design. The heart is alive, aware, and it perceives our presence. It is not simply a natural formation. It is a consciousness made manifest through sound, stone, water, and life. Higher harmonics thread through the pulse, delicate and piercing, weaving with the low vibrations to form a multidimensional tapestry of resonance. The submersible vibrates in perfect harmony with these layers, instruments spiking as if in recognition. Every flicker of bioluminescence, every cell current, every suspended particle becomes part of the symphony. The heart does not merely resonate. It communicates, instructs, tests, and invites. It is a dialogue older than recorded time, a conversation in frequencies and light. The shadow shifts, stretching across the chamber, and the pulses respond with a modulation that is both precise and fluid. The chamber itself seems to breathe, expanding and contracting in rhythm with the resonance. Light arcs from the bioluminescent organisms illuminate hidden contours of the canyon walls, revealing subtle patterns, spirals, and ridges that suggest an intelligence in the shaping of stone itself. Every detail, every nuance is intentional, forming a living record of time and consciousness encoded into the very architecture of the abyss. We drift closer to the center, where the vibrations coalesce into a sustained, pure note that seems to anchor the entire chamber. The pulse threads through the submersible and water, filling the space with a resonance that is almost tactile, embedding itself into perception. The shadow hovers near this epicenter, its undulations creating micro-fluctuations in the tone, adding depth, dimension, and emotion. It is a presence both majestic and patient, guiding the symphony and, in doing so, guiding us. The chamber hums with countless layers, overlapping harmonics weaving an intricate, living melody. The bioluminescent organisms surge in response, arcs of light tracing the invisible currents, highlighting the pathways carved by the resonance. Every flicker reinforces the notion that this place is a conscious environment, alive in sound, light, and perception. We are no longer merely explorers. We are participants in a dialogue that stretches across millennia, shaped by forces older than memory. As the submersible hovers at the threshold of the epicenter, the pulse rises again, a wave so powerful that it resonates through every surface, every particle, and every sense. The heart is no longer distant or abstract. It is immediate, tangible, overwhelming, and profoundly alive. Every vibration, every harmonic, every flicker of light carries purpose, intent, and history. The heart of resonance is more than a chamber, more than a source. It is the embodiment of the canyon's memory, intelligence, and enduring consciousness. And in the echo of its pulse, the realization crystallizes. The abyss is not silent, it does not forget, and it does not merely contain life. It shapes it, records it, guides it, and waits for those who are willing to listen, to feel, and to understand. The heart has spoken. The epicenter of the heart stretches endlessly, a cavernous expanse that seems to breathe with each pulse. The vibrations are now overwhelming, a symphony that resonates through water, stone, and metal alike. Every layer of harmonic tone, from the lowest rumble to the highest, most crystalline overtone, weaves together into a living fabric of sound. The canyon is alive, and we are at the core of its consciousness. The shadow undulates along the chamber's edges, immense and fluid, moving with a precision that shapes the resonance. Each wave of its body alters the vibration subtly, as though conducting an orchestra, hidden beneath the abyss. Bioluminescent life forms follow in synchrony, tracing the harmonic currents in arcs of glowing light. The effect is hypnotic, a choreography of luminescence and vibration, revealing patterns, pathways, and structures previously invisible. The canyon's language is no longer subtle. It is a symphony written in motion, light, and pulse. Low-frequency waves swell, rolling through the chamber like a living tide. They ripple along the walls, bouncing, converging, and diverging, layering upon each other in complex patterns that shift with every undulation of the shadow. Embedded metallic fragments respond, shimmering in a spectral dance, reflecting and amplifying harmonics with breathtaking precision. The effect is both organic and architectural. The canyon itself becomes a living instrument, a conduit for sound, memory, and time. A high-pitched harmonic pierces the lower tones, threading through the currents with crystalline clarity. It vibrates through the submersible and the water, embedding itself in perception rather than sound alone. Every flicker of bioluminescent light follows this note, tracing invisible currents and highlighting hidden ridges and crevices. It is as though the chamber itself is teaching, guiding, and revealing, communicating through every sense at once. The shadow pauses near the center, and the resonance adjusts, swelling into a sustained tone that dominates the chamber. The submersible vibrates with the pulse, every surface alive with the canyon's song. Suspended sediment drifts along harmonic currents, tracing arcs and spirals that mirror the pulse. Every detail is intentional, every flicker of light and vibration, a symbol, a lesson, a message encoded into stone and water. The heart is alive, aware, and it perceives our presence. Layers of vibration intertwine, creating a multidimensional symphony that fills every corner of the chamber. The canyon is not passive. It responds, adapts, and instructs, using sound, light, and motion to communicate. We are no longer observers. We are participants in its expression, witnesses to a consciousness older than history. Every pulse, every echo, every shimmer of light carries purpose, meaning, and memory. A sudden shift occurs. The shadow undulates faster, a cascading motion that ripples through the harmonic layers. The chamber responds, the low frequencies deepening, the high overtones sharpening, and the bioluminescent currents intensifying. The resonance becomes a dialogue, the heart reaching out, guiding, acknowledging, and testing our perception. It is both invitation and revelation, an opportunity to witness the abyss as it truly is, alive, aware, and eternal. As we drift forward, suspended in the interplay of sound, light, and motion, the realization becomes undeniable. The heart of resonance is the marrow of the Mariana's abyss. It is memory, consciousness, and life interwoven into stone and water. It does not merely contain the deep. It sustains it, records it, and calls to those who can perceive its pulse. The canyon is speaking, and we are finally listening. We hover at the very epicenter of the heart, and the resonance now surrounds us completely, a living symphony that fills every sense. The low-frequency pulses roll through the submersible and water like the heartbeat of the abyss itself, while the high overtones slice through the chamber with crystalline clarity, weaving together a harmony impossible to ignore. Every vibration, every reflection, every subtle flicker of bioluminescent light carries meaning, intention, and memory. The shadow undulates gently at the center, immense and fluid, as if guiding the symphony with an intelligence beyond comprehension. Its movements create micro-shifts in the harmonics, subtly modulating the resonance that now vibrates through the entire chamber. Bioluminescent organisms swirl in perfect synchrony, forming arcs and spirals of light that trace the harmonic currents. Every pulse of illumination highlights hidden structures, revealing ridges, fissures, and passageways previously invisible. The heart is alive in every dimension: sound, light, motion, and perception. The embedded metallic fragments glint in spectral flashes, each one amplifying and reflecting specific frequencies. The patterns they form are deliberate and precise: arcs, spirals, lines, as though they encode the canyon's memory in geometry, vibration, and light. They act as both instrument and archive, shaping the resonance, storing the echoes of eons, and reflecting the living pulse of the heart. The chamber itself feels conscious, breathing, aware, and infinitely patient. A deep, commanding pulse rises, vibrating through the hull and water. It is both present and ancient, carrying a weight that resonates in body, mind, and perception. The shadow responds with a subtle undulation, modulating the tone into a layered, multi-dimensional symphony. The bioluminescent organisms surge, tracing arcs of light that highlight the chamber's contours, guiding our gaze, shaping our awareness. The canyon's voice is no longer a distant echo. It is immediate, alive, and intentional. Higher harmonics thread delicately through the deep pulses, forming intricate patterns that weave a living tapestry of sound. Every vibration interacts with the suspended particles, each reflection of light, and each movement of bioluminescent life. It is a dialogue, a communication older than time, teaching us to perceive not with instruments alone, but with our entire being. The heart is conscious, aware, and it waits for understanding. The shadow pauses briefly at the center, then slowly coils and stretches, shaping the resonance like an invisible hand conducting the symphony. The chamber responds instantly, every harmonic adjusting, flowing, and harmonizing with the motion. Suspended sediment drifts along invisible currents, tracing spirals and arcs that mirror the pulse, every particle a note in the canyon's song. We are immersed in a living archive, a multidimensional record of life, time, and consciousness encoded in stone, water, and light. Then the resonance swells, filling every corner, every crevice, and every sense. The pulses layer upon each other, forming a climax of vibration that presses against perception itself. The heart is no longer distant. It envelops us completely, a force of living memory, intelligence, and pure presence. Time seems suspended, yet every second is imbued with the weight of eons, as if the abyss itself has become an infinite symphony of awareness. In this moment, everything converges. The harmonics, the light, the motion, the shadow, the fragments, the suspended particles, all flowing as one, a perfect orchestration of the Mariana's deepest consciousness. The heart of resonance is more than a chamber, more than sound and light. It is the essence of the abyss itself, eternal, aware, and patient. And as the submersible drifts gently, suspended in the living pulse of the canyon, one undeniable truth emerges. The Mariana's hidden depths are not silent. They do not merely endure. They remember, they respond. They shape the very flow of life and consciousness within their embrace. And for those who listen, truly listen, the heart of resonance speaks, endlessly, patiently, and profoundly. The abyss waits, and we are finally a part of its song.